So just let me know. Okay. So after that, properties to exclude. So if they are, let's say they have a special one with another agent, like they are looking at some properties, they're like, for me, I do send out off-market deals. Even off-market deals, not just on MLS, you have to have this form, right? It protects you to make a commission on that. Okay. So if you have other properties to exclude, this is what you fill out. This is going to be the toughest part for you guys. I know I had a difficult time asking this. It's how much that I want them to pay me. So I'll tell you my verbiage, and then you decide if you want to use it and just change it up to your style. But I told them, hey, look, for me, the norm is 2.5% that I was making before. This is what I would normally charge as well. However, just to let you know, I'm going to actually request the sellers to pay for this. I'm not going to be charging you directly. But if in the case that they aren't willing to pay, then we can negotiate on this. One thing is I'm gonna try to reflect on the price. But even if then we worked on the price already and they're still not allowed to or not wanting to pay for our commission and it's not 2.5, I will set an addendum on the side that states, hey, we can renegotiate then depending on the price that we do. Okay. I will only actually say that if they say no to the 2.5 first. I would try the 2.5 first, and if they give you some hesitation, then I would bring that up that it'll be negotiable. But once I said 2.5, and I said, don't worry, I'm gonna make the sellers pay for it. Most of my clients, I think 3 of them were like okay with it. So again, it's up to you how much you want to charge. Okay. I know there's agents out there that are asking for 3 because with the situation now, us as buyers have to do a lot more work than we needed to do before, especially with all these new contracts and new things that you have to learn. Okay, so again, it's up to you. But for new agents, yeah, you could do a little bit discount for now. But I do want you guys to uphold your value once you get seasoned and good. All right, payments received by broker from sellers or others directly. You do have to have another form, and I'll show you on a different paragraph what to put on there. Continue right of payments for the broker involved property. So this is a protection. This is after the contract expires that you're still protected. Give you example. I showed this property to a client and our contract ends in 1 month. 2 months later, or not, let's say 2 months, a month and a half later, they dropped the price and then they got in contract. Well, because you're the one that showed it and you put in, let's say, hopefully 30 days. You can put longer if you want, but my thing is I'm putting 30 days. I think it's long enough, but not too long where the client's not gonna, want to sign this. But say, hey, after a month, if any of the properties that I showed you, you do get in contract that, I still earn my commission for it. Okay. Cancellation rights. Now, this is, hey, when you can cancel. So let's just say we set the 6 months cancellation date. But if it's non-exclusive and if they want to ask for a cancellation, how much days you want to do, 10 days, whatever. I'm not even gonna fill this out because my thing is, I tell all my clients is a money back guarantee type of thing. You never want to, if you ever not want to work with me, just let me know. I'll sign a cancellation agreement. And that's always been open. Even for my listings, I do that. It gives them the confidence that say, hey, to sign this contract. But also, I don't want to force someone that doesn't want to use me just because we signed a contract that 6 months they can't use any other agent unless they use me. Hey, if they don't want to use me, I'm okay with that, because one thing is they are gonna badmouth you to all their friends and family if you lock them in and chain and basically handcuff them and say, nope, I'm not gonna let you use any other agent. You have to use me. It's not a good look. So again, that's my personality. If you want to do that, I'm not gonna control you guys on that, but it will make it look bad on you, and no one's gonna want to ever refer anybody to you ever again. Okay. Next, time to deliver personal finance. You guys should have always this upfront. Make sure that they're POF, their proof of funds, and the pre-approval before you show houses. That's always been my rule. First step is to look at the pre-approval. Okay. Any other financial considerations? But if they tell you, oh, I only have enough money for my down payment, I don't have any extra funds, check this box and just let them know, well, what we're going to do is we're going to only look at properties that sellers are going to compensate. And if they don't compensate, guess what? We won't put an offer in those, or in the contract, we have to tell them this he doesn't have the funds for it. So unless you pay my commissions, we can't put an offer in. And hopefully the sellers go, you know what, there's a good offer, and take it. Okay. Next is if the purchase of a certain loan product doesn't allow them to pay for compensation. The only one I knew was VA before, but they even changed the rules on that. So I don't know any other loan programs. There might be some out there. This is going to be a very, very niche product. So I'm not too worried about this. But if the case is, again, you just show the sellers the proof, hey, my buyers are not able to pay the commission. So if you want to accept our offer, you have to pay for it. Okay. And there's a big talk about concessions and who pays for commissions, because those all affect things. Because when you do a loan, and you are getting money back from the lender, you're getting money back maybe from the real estate agent, and now you get a concession for paying for commissions. Well, lenders might not let that happen because there's a maximum for your concession. So this gets a little bit complicated if you're doing it as a concession or a compensation. Okay, so we're gonna have a big talk on that as well. It is 9:15, so I think I went through everything we need to on here. Let's see here. There's only two more things I want to talk about, and then we'll go have the home inspection protection, home inspection training. Sorry. It was right here where we talked about the paragraph. So one, if it's exclusive, they do have to initial an additional spot right here. So non-exclusive, they don't need to initial this, but if you are exclusive, they have to initial this part. Okay. Oh, here, there's a part that I was talking about. If the seller is paying for commission, then this is where you put the confirmation of commissions. So how much they are paying you, right? You have to put that here if the seller is paying. So this is the section here. And if they're entity, basically if they're a LLC, corporation, partnership, check this box. And they do have additional form called a representation capacity signature. Very easy form, just states that who is signing on this business behalf or entity's behalf, and they have to procure a document that states that they are authorized to do so. Other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory. And again, I know this is new. Call me anytime. Double check with me. I will look over this for the first couple of times. Please don't make me look at this forever for you guys. But I'll look over your forms just in case, because this is a very important form that we must have. And just call me if there's any questions. All right. So let's switch gears. Anton, how's everything?
I'm good. That was actually a lot of information. You're such a good speaker, Vince. Very succinct, and
Oh,
I
thank you.
like the tone that you have. Makes you a great broker, right? All right, guys. Welcome to today's home inspection training. We actually have one of our office managers, Travis, with us. Amazing inspector. He's going to go through everything. You know me, Antonio, and I am your local account supervisor, account manager, however you want to call it. HomeGuard does home, roof, termite, sewer lateral, pool inspections. We do NHDs and home warranties. I have a special guest coming in about 2 or 3 weeks now. The next one that we do, she's actually the new home warranty inspector. I can't wait for you guys to meet her. But without further ado, I have Travis here, and I know you guys are ready to learn, so I'll turn it over to him.
All right, thanks, Anton. Good morning, everyone. My name is Travis Balzer. I am the VP of Operations here at HomeGuard Incorporated, and I'm actually over all the inspectors, and I'm very familiar with all of our services. I'm a home inspector myself, a termite inspector, and a sewer lateral inspector, so I've been in the industry for well over 10 years now and been performing inspections on thousands of homes. So I'm going to really go over all the home inspection training with you. I'll walk you through a report, go over terms and what it means to do a home inspection. I'm going to share my screen right now so you can see and follow along with what I'm talking about, make things a lot easier for everybody. All right, you should see that up there. What are we going to talk about? So first off, how to prepare for a home inspection. That's something you want to know, what you need to do to get your clients ready, what to expect from the home inspection. That's very key. A lot of people have ideas on what a home inspection may or may not be. So we want to talk about that real quick. We'll also talk about ASHI, the American Society for Home Inspectors, which is the association that all of our home inspectors follow and are members of. That kind of dictates what we do as an inspector. Then how to read the report, very important. You want to know how to read it, what is inspected, and then some findings and terms. We'll go over there. And I'll be bringing those findings and terms up as we progress through here. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me and ask to clarify anything that I'm going on. We have about 45 minutes, so I am going to go a bit fast on this because it's a lot of information. Okay, first off, helping prepare your clients. Very key. If you have animals, right? Home inspectors are coming to the house. They're going to be in there. If there's homeowners living there, they got pets, they got animals. We want to contain those because the home inspectors do need to get around the entire house, inside and outside. They're going to go in the crawl space. They're going to go in the attic. We have cats. Let's lock those cats up, because I've had inspectors open crawl spaces and cats go down in the crawl space. So let's just contain those animals. Please tell your homeowners, if you do have animals, contain them. And while we're doing that inspection, then we want to also make sure that we have access to everything with the structure. This is very, very key, because we want to make sure we inspect the entire building, right? We don't want to leave anything left off. We don't want to have any further inspections where the inspector can't get into a crawl space or can't get into an attic. So let's make sure everything is accessible. I know when we're listing a home, when we're getting ready, the homeowners have a lot of stuff, and you want to make things look better for showing, for pictures. So we'll take stuff and we'll put it in the garage, right? Pack it all in the garage. We'll pack closets full of things, get all the extra clutter out and into closets or into garages. Well, that's fine. Let's do that. Let's get it into the garage. But one thing to keep in mind when we are in the garage and we're inspecting is the inspectors really, really need to see all around the perimeter of the garage. So if we're going to stack stuff in the garage, try to contain it in the middle of the garage and not along the perimeter walls. Let's have those perimeter walls accessible. We want to see if there's termites coming up there for the termite inspection. Home inspectors want to look at electrical, the wall framing. You know, they got to look at all this stuff. So for us to be able to see the perimeter of the garage is very, very, very key. And then closets. If there is a crawl space access in the closet, which is very, very common to have, let's make sure that that particular closet doesn't have a lot of stuff in there, because we want to be able to get into that closet to get in there and get into that crawl space. We're up in the attic. That's another common thing. We have shelving, we have stuff on that shelves, and then the inspector can't put his ladder in there to get up inside that attic. So let's make sure we are clear on those areas so we can get in there, okay? Now, I know best case scenario, a vacant home is probably the best. That's the best way to inspect. Nothing in there. We can do a complete inspection, but that is not always the case. So please keep these things in mind. We want to get to these areas, okay? Now, another thing to remind your clients about is, what is a home inspection? Let's talk about that, right? Because you're going to get asked from a buyer, you know, what does the home inspector look at? What is he doing? What is he talking about? Well, it's mainly a visual examination, a visual inspection, right? Make sure you really make that very clear. The home inspector cannot tell you what is going on with the walls, right? What's inside, what's going on in there. We can't. It's visual. It's what we can see. So think of it as a snapshot in time. That home inspector comes on that date at that time, and he looks at that house, and he's going to see what is there and what he can clearly see. If things happen before, after that, we may not know. We can't determine that. We can't figure that out. But we can come in and we can see what we can see. So again, this is why it's very clear and very common for us to make it, we want to make sure we can access and see everything when we're doing that home inspection, right? We want to be able to see the closets inside. We want to get in that crawl space, that attic, because it is visual. So if there's lots of furniture, lots of clutter blocking access to windows and doors, well, that makes it hard for us to inspect those things, right? And then there may be something we miss. And the whole point of it, we want to see it all, because the point of you hiring us is to come and reduce that liability, right? We're there to reduce some liability, to find and disclose items and defects with the home. So then you can show that to potential buyers, or if you are representing a buyer and they're getting the inspection, so your buyer knows what they're getting into, right? So let's try to always keep that in mind. Visual examination of what is going on with the house. Now, what do we inspect? We look at everything, right? We're looking at all the different systems in the home. We're looking at the interior plumbing, the electrical, the exterior, the roof, the attic, and the visible structure, okay? And then the other thing that we do is, does the inspector know or have the solutions to every problem that they find? He does not. Usually, we're there to tell you that there is something wrong. Think of us as a generalist, right? The home inspector is the general physician of the home. We're not specialists. We're not electricians. We're not plumbers, but we are that generalist. We kind of have that basic training and knowledge on the general well-being of the home. So when you come in, just like when you go to your general doctor, that you come in, you show him, you tell them that there's something wrong, and they may refer you off to a specialist. Well, we're going to do the same thing. We will find electrical issues. We will find plumbing issues. Now, what we're going to say in the report is we found this, this, and this, and we recommend that you have a further evaluation done by a plumber or by an electrician, because that electrician, that specialist will come in and they may find more stuff wrong. We know that there's something going on. We can see the signs and symptoms there. We point that out, but there could be more to it. And the only way to really narrow in on that would be to have that electrician come out and take a look. So that's something we're always going to do. You're going to see that a lot in our reports. We're going to recommend further evaluation by the appropriate trades or the appropriate specialist. Okay.
Hey,
That is
Travis?
very common. Yep.
So quick question, and I do have a comment as well. What if the client asks, "Hey, so what if I want to know what's in the walls?" What do you say to them in those cases where they want to know what type of plumbing is in there and
Well, often we can get a general idea of what's going on with the plumbing from what we can see in the crawl space, right? So what we can see there, we're going to know if most of the house is copper or it's galvanized or it's old drains or newer drains. We can see a lot of that. Now, what's hidden in the walls, we really don't know what's in the walls, right? It is entirely possible that I could see copper everywhere and then there's still some galvanized left in the walls. That is absolutely possible. You can eliminate some factors there by, is it an old house? Is it a new home, right? If it's a newer home, well, it's probably not going to have galvanized piping. It's going to be copper or maybe plastic. But if it's an older home built in the 60s, 40s, 30s, there is that chance that there is some galvanized in the wall. Sometimes we can see where it comes out, where the plumbing is, where the fixtures are. We can see if there's copper there. But again, there's been instances where people have changed the fittings there where the sink is because they put a brand new sink in. So they put some copper fittings there, but then still what was in the wall was galvanized plumbing. There's really no guarantees unless you start opening the wall. And you're going to find a lot of that out if some remodeling is going to occur. So if the homeowners do tend to do remodeling or they want to do remodeling once they buy that home, always enlighten them that when you start opening up walls, you always are probably going to find other stuff going on that is not in the inspection reports. Be very clear on that. When we start to remodel, we usually start to find stuff that is not seen there. Okay.
And the comment that I had was just for the checklist. If you wanted to add, make sure the utilities on. I had one instance where the sellers turned off the water and they couldn't check for leaks and stuff like that. So before the inspections, make sure both utilities on. And sometimes if there's like wall furnace, to have that pilot light on, because home inspectors will not turn that pilot light on. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. Home inspectors are not going to operate valves. They were not going to turn on pilots and things like that, because, you know, a lot of times stuff like that breaks, and it happens. Older valves for plumbing fixtures, you go to turn it, it hasn't been turned in who knows how long. And when you go to turn that valve, suddenly it leaks, right? Or it breaks. So inspectors won't, because they don't want, you know, have that liability of having broken that valve. They may ask, you may have some inspectors who will ask the homeowner, is it okay if I turn this on? And then they may do it, but not, some guys just won't do it. So yes, it's best to have all your utilities on: gas, electrical, water. That way we can do a full, complete inspection. And that's really the whole point of it, is to get that full, complete inspection, because we don't want a further inspection called out in our reports. I want to complete that inspection for you. We don't want to have to come back. Now, Home Guard, we do a lot of we will come back to the property for a further inspection if we called out and say we couldn't get in the attic, or maybe the water was off for some reason. We will come back at no additional charge. We will finish that inspection. You paid us to do it. We want to complete it. But it's best to avoid, obviously, that, because that adds time to the transaction. And nobody wants to add time, right?
Hey, Travis, before you continue, I do have two comments that I want to pass along to especially our newer agents. Number one is that if you can always be at the inspection, especially for your sellers, our home inspectors, our termite inspectors, our roof inspectors, they're always available after the inspection to go through the report with you on their iPad. So it's actually a great time to kind of like look at the iPad, have the inspector tell you what they saw that is maybe a 911 issue, and you know, what we can do about it. Of course, the report will come out later on, but you always want to kind of pick their brain with that first one-on-one meeting with the inspector if you can. And then number two, I know staging is a big thing now, especially for the vacant homes. I always tell my my clients, my customers, you guys, the agents, do the home inspection, do the termite inspections, if possible, before the stages come in, because once the stages come in, then now, you know, they put out together this masterpiece, and you're gonna have to move things around because our inspectors can't get behind it or around it, right? So just wanted to put my 2 cents in there, and I'll let you.
Good tip.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's best to do it before staging. If it's vacant and you're going to stage, get that done before the staging. I've had times where we had a hard time finding the electrical panel inside the home because the stager put a picture over it. That's a common one. You know, they hide it because it looks ugly on the wall there, right? So I always recommend doing it before staging. All right. That's always the best. The vacant home is the best. I know it's not always possible, but that is the best. And just like Anton said, yes, the inspectors are going to be there. It's a great idea to meet them at the property and talk to them. They will go over what they found. They can answer more questions for you. But if you do have more questions, once you get that report, you cannot make it to the property, that is fine. That is okay. We do offer an additional service at no charge by paying for our inspections. You can come, we will come out and we will do a walkthrough on the reports. We can do a consultation on the reports on site at your request. And we can do that with buyers too. If the seller had the inspections done, a buyer is locked in, he wants to get that home and he wants to walk through the report, we can go do that before you close. That is okay. We can do that.
How much does that cost? Just curious.
Nothing. It's zero.
Oh, it's free. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's part of the inspection fee. So that's already covered in the inspection fee. You know, we'll come out and do those consultations for buyers. And I've done a lot of them because buyers have a lot of questions. So they want to know what's going on. And I've been on site and showed the buyer around, showed them where shutoffs are, where the valves are, things like that. It's really helpful. And it's something that's great to talk to the inspector because you can really get some insight and you can learn a lot from these reports and about the home inspection process by talking to the inspector on site. You're going to learn a lot about homes. So let's talk about the inspectors, right? Where the qualifications come from as an inspector, or how do you become an inspector? Well, first off, home inspectors, a lot of them have a very broad range of backgrounds. Most of them come from different trades. Maybe they were a plumber, maybe they're an electrician. Some of them don't have any prior trade experience and they come in and they do the training courses, right? There is training courses. It's probably about 170 hours of training in a classroom and watching videos and reading and studying materials. And then from there, there's usually about 4 to 6 months of field training for most inspectors. And we're talking 4 to 6 months with another licensed and experienced inspector learning the trade in the field with them. You may have had inspections with HomeGuard where there was 2 guys on one inspection because he was training somebody. So it's very common. And then we use an association called ASHI, the American Society of Home Inspectors. They're kind of that golden standard across the country on inspections. There are multiple organizations out there that license home inspectors, all right, who certify home inspectors. So make sure you know when you hire a home inspector, what association are you a part of? What's your qualifications? Always check that because there are quite a few different associations. Some are better than others. ASHI's kind of the most well-known. They've been around the longest, and they have some of the more stricter and stringent qualifications as well as testing methods to kind of prove that an inspector knows his stuff, right? Another thing to do is really ask them, you know, are you currently licensed? And you can verify if they are currently certified or licensed by usually going to the association website and looking up their name. And this is important because guess what? The state of California, anybody could slap a business card together that says they're a home inspector. They could go do that home inspection and charge you for it and not have any sort of licensing or experience. They're allowed to. There's no law or any sort of licensing in the state of California for home inspectors. Now, if you're a termite inspector, well, you know they're licensed through the state. They have to be. There is state licensing for termite inspectors, but not home inspectors. Anybody can call themselves a home inspector and charge for it. Really, there's no state licensing, so keep that in mind. That's why it's important that your home inspector be associated with one of the associations. And of course, I recommend ASHI. We use ASHI. And the reason we use ASHI, they set the standards. They have the standards of practice. So if you want to know what a home inspector is supposed to inspect and what he's not, what they're supposed to do, what their job is, you can go to ASHI's website and you can read the standards of practice. It's listed there in detail what a home inspector does and what a home inspector does not do. Okay, it's very clear. There's a code of ethics. There's a standard of practice. We all adhere to that. We all have to follow that to maintain our membership with this association. Now, in order to become certified with ASHI, they do have some requirements. You have to pass the National Home Inspectors exam. This exam is a 200-question exam. It is fairly tough. It is kind of the main exam across the entire nation. There are some states in this country that do require licensing through the state. They use this exam. This exam is what is used by those states. So ASHI requires you pass this exam. I'll tell you, most people do not pass this test on their first try. It is that tough. It usually takes a couple tries to pass this test. And then from there, you also have to do inspections. You have to have been on inspections, 250 inspections minimum. You have to have attended in order to call yourself a certified home inspector, right? So, you know, if they're certified through ASHI, they've done a minimum of 250 inspections they've been on. And that's quite a lot. That's a decent amount. Most home inspectors don't do much more than 200 to 300 a year. Most companies, right? At HomeGuard, we do a lot more, but that's the case, right? So any questions about ASHI and the licensing of home inspectors? No? Okay, so always keep that in mind. Now let's walk you through the report, right? Let's go over the report here for a bit. Here's the cover page. This is kind of that front page. This is what you're going to see when you get our report. It's going to have a snapshot of a picture of the house there up front. It's going to obviously have the title at the top, says home inspection report. There's the address of the home. You have this beautiful cover shot showing you the home, so you know exactly what home was inspected. There's going to be the inspector's name is going to be at the bottom right corner, along with their signature and the date of the inspection. There's also going to be the ordering party's information. This is not the homeowner's information. This is the ordering party. Who ordered it? So if you called to order the inspection, your information will be here, okay? And then most of the time, it is the real estate agent who's ordering the inspection. And then at the very, very bottom, you'll have HomeGuard Incorporated's address and information and phone number right there, and then also report number. That report number is key. You can always refer to that report number when looking up reports, when calling us, and we can always look there to get the details on the transaction from our side of things. There's going to be a table of contents detailing out all the different sections of the report. And then something I always want to stress, if there's one thing you can learn today from me, is that it's important to read the entire report. Please read the entire report. Very, very key. A lot of the times I have people that read just the front summary and they don't read the body of the report. And then I get a phone call, Travis, there's nothing in here about the dishwasher. There was a problem with the dishwasher. But then if you read the body of the report, maybe there was a comment in there, but it just wasn't highlighted in the summary of improvements at the beginning, because our reports are broken down into a couple areas. Now, we're always going to start off with a general description of the structure. At the very top, it's just going to be a general description of what we inspected, the age of the home. And then underneath that, we'll also talk about what the weather conditions were at the time. If it was raining or was it dry? That is key. That is important to have that information in there. So we always put that in there, right? Because if it was raining, that makes a big difference versus if it wasn't. Now, well, the next section after that is what we call our immediate recommended improvements. So these are the items that in the inspector's opinion, you should be made well aware of, because it could be a serious health or safety hazard or a defect in the material, right? That's what we're inspecting for. That is the job of the inspector, is to tell you what is a health and safety hazard and any sort of defects in the materials or construction methods of that home, right? What would we consider a defect? A defect would be a pipe that is corroded and about to leak. That's a defective material with that piping, right? It's corroded. It's probably going to leak or fail at some point. It's defective. It's no longer capable of doing its job. A window that won't open, well, that's a defective window, right? Is a window that won't open a health or safety hazard? In most cases, it's not, but it is a defective window, right? It's not. It doesn't open anymore. Now, is a staircase without a hand railing, is that defective? Well, the staircase still functions as a staircase, but no, it's a health or safety hazard because we don't have a hand railing, right? That's what's important there. That hand railing is a key part of safety in terms of transgressing those stairs. So those are the types of things the home inspector are going to be pointing out, right? Now, if it is something that in their opinion is really important, it's going to be highlighted in this section and there will be a picture. And this is where I always say, please read the entire report, because a lot of the times people read just this section because there's pictures there and it's highlighting the most important things, the big ticket items, the big things we want to talk about and beware, foundation cracks, things like that. They're going to be listed here for sure. But some of the smaller issues, they may not be listed here, but those smaller issues could also be important to different people. Everybody has different opinion what is important to them. I've had an inspection where I was at a house and this one lady she was like calling me up and saying, well, hey, there's the dishwasher doesn't work in this house. That is a huge deal. Why isn't that highlighted front and center? I'm like, it's just a dishwasher. It's written in there. It is in the report the dishwasher didn't work. The house had foundation cracks. They were horizontal foundation cracks. There was serious foundation issues with this home, probably $100,000 and $150,000 to fix. But this lady was more concerned about the dishwasher, right? So this is why I say it's important to read the entire report. Your buyer may have different concerns than what you're used to. So it is very key. Everybody's different. Read the entire report. Make sure you go over everything with the buyer when reading through it and with the homeowner, because one thing that is important to someone else may not be important to another person, right? So always go through everything. So how do we kind of break this down? We have our immediate recommended items. They're going to be broken down by section: roof, exterior, electrical, interior, pool and spa. If we do a pool and spa inspection, we do those if you request it. And we're going to break it down by section so you know that it's related to electrical. There will be pictures to highlight the issues. We'll talk about roof items first, always the roof, because we always like to start from the top and work our way down, right, of the house. So that's why we always start on the outside. We start at the roof. We work around the outside, kind of get an idea of what's going on there, because we can learn a lot from the roof. We can learn a lot from the outside of the home, and we might have an idea of what's going on inside before we even there. If I see a house with a really bad roof, well, that's going to kind of clue me off with a checklist like, I have a bad roof. When I get inside, I'm really going to be paying attention for signs of leakage inside or signs of water damage inside the home, because I know this house has a bad roof. If the home has a really like a brand new roof, well, a little less concern there because we got this brand new roof. We're still going to be looking for it, but I'm not going to be overly like really hammering in looking for all that stuff, because we do have a brand new roof there. I'm going to look for sort of any sort of repairs that were done, maybe to the roof or anything inside the attic. That's going to be more my concern, less concern on that roof there because it's a brand new roof, right? So things we're going to check when we're going around that house and looking at that roof, we're going to look at your rafters, your eaves. We're looking for water damage. We're looking at the gutters because we want to know, do those gutters leak? Leaking gutters may seem minor, but it will lead to wood rot in your eaves and in your rafters over time if we don't fix those leaking gutters, right? So it's important to take care of these small items. Again, read the report, because the small items, the minor stuff that we may think is insignificant could eventually lead to further damage and further problems down the road if not taken care of. So after the roof, we'll talk about the exterior. And one thing people kind of find funny is, why does your exterior talk about the garage? Well, we always include the garage on the exterior of home because garage technically is not the inside of the home. It's not livable space, right? It's not part of that interior. So garage is included with the exterior. So anything you want to know with the garage, look to the exterior section. That's where it's going to be reported. We'll check the garage door. We're going to make sure it works, that the automatic opener reverses correctly. We'll look all that stuff there. So garage is important. Decks, stairs, porches, anything like that, it's going to be on the outside. The wall cladding, the windows, the doors, it'll all be reported on that exterior section. Important with decks. Decks tend to be very expensive to fix and have lots of problems, right? Wood decks, I know they're nice, they look great, but a lot of times they're older and a lot of times they have a lot of damage. So talk to your inspector before the inspection. Do you want the inspector to look at that deck or not, right? Do you want them to inspect it? Make that decision. I get there's agents who don't want it. There's agents that do want it. And it depends. Are they on the seller's side or the buyer's side of the transaction? If it's a buyer's side, I can guarantee you they want everything inspected. So we do end up looking at everything. But on the seller's side, a lot of times I have sellers that say, don't look at the deck. So I'm going to exclude the deck from the report because the seller asked me to. So again, please read the entire report. It's important to know that because it's going to be noted in the report that I did not inspect that deck. And if you are representing the buyer, maybe you want that deck inspected. So then give us a call back and say, hey, Travis, it looks like your inspector didn't look at the deck. Can we please look at the deck? Is that something you can do? Yeah, we'll come out real quick, take a look at that deck and give you a report on that. That's not a problem, right? So please make sure you look at it because, again, decks are big ticket items. A deck in the Bay Area, I can guarantee you, even a small one, is going to run in the tens of thousands of dollars to build or repair. Okay, big ticket item. Moving on, real quick, if the house has a pool, the home inspector is obligated and required by law to report whether the home has safety prevention drowning methods at the house to prevent someone from accessing that pool and drowning. We have to report that if they have the safety prevention methods or not. There are seven different methods of prevention. 2 of them have to be present on the home. If 2 of them are not, we have to report that and say it does not have that. So this is like fencing. Is there a fence around the pool? And I'm not talking about the property fence. I'm talking about a fence that isolates the pool from the home. The whole point of this is, can somebody access that pool from the house? Like a child, right? Could a child open a door, get into the pool, and then fall in? Because what do children do? They love pools, they love water, right? So, even unsupervised, they'll go for the water and start to play with it. So that's why it's important we have these safety features. And that's why California passed a bill a couple years ago saying we have to report this, okay? So this is required. There are home inspection companies out there that will not do this, but that means they will not inspect the home if it has a pool. They'll say, sorry, you have a pool, I cannot do that house inspection for you. And it's because their insurance does not cover them. They do not have insurance coverage on that. We do. We have insurance coverage for everything we do. So we can inspect it. We can tell you what's going on there. So keep an eye out for that in our reports. We will always put that in there. Moving on, after our exterior, we will have an electrical section. This is where you're going to find the information on what type of service comes to the home. How large is the service? Is it 100 amps? Is it 200 amps? Wiring, the electrical panel, the outlets, the switches. These are the items you're going to find in our electrical section. Some common things, we find ungrounded electrical outlets a lot of abandoned wiring, switches that don't work. Those are common items. They're not so serious, but your electrical panel is. And, we'll look at that. We need to get in there. Remember, we got to open that panel. The inspector is going to unscrew it, take that panel cover off, and he's going to look at the wiring. Very common thing we run into, the painters. What do the painters like to do? They like to paint over the panel, and they'll just paint it, and then they'll caulk around the edges. Makes it very difficult for the inspector to get that panel off without having to cut with a knife to cut around there. And if the inspector has to do that, it will likely mess up the paint. So please ask your painters to avoid painting over the electrical panel. Make sure they tape it off so it doesn't get painted over. So we do want to look behind there, especially if we have older wiring in the house. And if we have like things like a Zinsco electrical panel or a Federal Pacific electrical panel. These are very old electrical panels that have lots of issues. And honestly, the companies went bankrupt that created those panels. They don't exist anymore. And a lot of electricians will not work on those panels. If they see one in the house, what are they going to say? You need a new panel. They're going to most likely tell you to buy and install a new panel, right? So important to know that. And that's something we will always point out is if there's a Federal Pacific or a Zinsco panel or a Bulldog panel. Those are the common ones that are old and not very good. Interior, once we're done with, we're going to be inside the house. We're going to check the stairs in the house, look for leaks, look for signs of water entry, check the flooring. We're going to operate the windows, the doors. One thing that keep in mind, the inspector does not operate every door or every window in the house. If we did that, we would be at your house all day long, especially on the big ones, right? Same with the electrical outlets. We don't test every single outlet. A house has an outlet every 6 feet, right? That's what's required. That's a lot of outlets. So it would take far too long to check every single one. So what do? We do what is called a representative sampling. And that is something that ASHI dictates as the standards and practice. We just check one per room. So when we walk in the bedroom, I check one outlet, I open one window, and I open and close one door, right? But I do visually inspect everything, right? That doesn't mean I did not look at the other windows or the other doors. I did look at them. I look to see, are the windows foggy? Are the windows cracked? Are they broken? The doors have damage or missing hardware. I do look for all that. Do the electrical outlets, are they black because they, started to smoke or smolder? I look for things like that. But we may only operate or test one per room, okay? I'm not going to really go over the pool much right now. We do have a pool inspection that we do. If you would like a pool inspection, you can ask when you call an order. It's a basic pool inspection. It is based off ASHI standards, but it is not a comprehensive pool inspection. No chemical testing, nothing extensive. If you want an inspection like that, your best bet is to get a pool company out and to have them inspect it. But if you want a basic health and safety inspection, you want to know if there's any major safety issues with the pool. Does the equipment work? Does it function? We can check all that for you. We can do that for you at an additional cost, not a large fee, but we can do it. So now that we've gone through that summary, so everything there was just kind of like that summary page, right? And that is a lot of information right there. It is to read through and to look at. But that's not the entire report. There's still much, much more. So after we get through that summary, we now get into what is the scope of the inspection. You're going to see a page talking about the scope. I encourage you to read that. If you've never seen one of our reports, please read the scope. It does go over everything that's inspected and what it's based off of, okay? It talks about that this is a visual inspection, that we only do a representative sampling, that we do no destructive testing or dismantling. So the home inspector is not going to open up walls. It's not going to poke holes. They're not going to, take apart components. That's not what we're there to do. If it's readily accessible, we will look at it, right? What is the definition of readily accessible? Well, it is really defined as something we can gain access to without a lot of extra tools or a lot of extra work. Can I simply just open it with a screwdriver, to get into my electrical panel or to look at my furnace? That is readily accessible. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then one thing I get asked a lot, is that water heater the right size for this home? I get asked that question a lot. And that is unfortunately something the home inspector cannot really tell you. They're not really supposed to. Some inspectors may know the answer to that question. Maybe they have the experience or the background to adequately answer that question. But most home inspectors do not. And it's not something that is required. So we don't talk about adequacy, strength, or effectiveness of a component or system, right? We're going to look to see, is it working? Is it functioning? Was it installed properly? Is it defective? We'll look at those things, but I can't tell you if that AC compressor outside is large enough or if it's too small. And that, again, it's also very subjective. To one person, that water heater may be adequate to 2 people living in that home, but then a family of 5, maybe that water heater is too small and they need a larger water heater, right? So again, it can vary and be different based on the occupants' desires and needs when they live in that house. And now we're into that body of the report. If you notice, each of our sections, it will be broken into 3 sections. We're going to start off first with item descriptions. So this is everything that was inspected in that section will be listed at the top under item description. If we inspected it, it's listed here. If it's not listed here, we didn't inspect it. Then there will be comments. Maybe there's a comment saying, hey, the house is anchored to the structure. This is where you'll find that comment in the structure section, that there are anchor bolts anchoring the home. Or maybe we recommend an HVAC technician to come out. That comment will be here at the top there. Then after that, all the recommendations, every recommendation will be underneath that comment section. All the recommendations will be listed. Some will be in red. If they are written in red, that is something that was already covered in the summary at the beginning. If it's printed in black, it was not in the summary. So this is a comment that you did not read in the summary. Again, very important. Read the entire report. You will find comments that are not listed in the summary. And then lastly, the limitations is at the very bottom. Please read the limitations. These are not just boilerplate limitations. There are going to be limitations specific to the home. And this is something that the inspector didn't do. If I didn't inspect the deck on this house, it will be listed here in the limitations saying I did not inspect the deck, or I did not inspect the patio cover at the request of the agent or the request of the homeowner, etc. It will be listed there. So very important. Please read that. It is not all boilerplate. I get that. Hey, it's just boilerplate comments, but it's not always, not always. From there, we move into the structure section. Every section, the structure is all listed the same report. The great thing about our reports, they are the same no matter what. The structure, the layout, everything you see there is what was inspected and all the comments. There isn't going to be any verbose, extra, talk about this and that. Is it serviceable? Is it not serviceable? We don't go into all those things. We just put what you need to know in the reports. Makes it very easy to read, very easy to understand. And that is one thing that a lot of people like about our reports. It doesn't go into crazy detail like some other companies do. And some people really go into a lot of detail. Every inspector is different. So we're getting close to time here. So I'm just going to kind of quickly go through the body of the reports here. So after structure, we will have our roof. So our structure, this is where you're going to find all your components for the foundation, for the roofing, the attic. So if you want to know about foundation cracks, if you want to know about the structure being bolted, this is where you're going to read it in this section. It's going to be covered here. If there was issues with the foundation, it will be listed here. If it's a slab foundation, that's going to be listed here. And we will, if we can find anything with the slab foundation, it will be reported here. Was there a crawl space? Again, it's going to be listed here. And how did we inspect it? That's also listed here. Did we enter the attic or did we just look at it from the access? That's going to be detailed because sometimes the inspector can't actually walk around in the attic. It's not safe to do so, and he can't see where to stand or where to walk because of all the insulation up in there. So he's going to tell you how he inspected it in this section. So please make sure you look over that and see how we inspected it. Because I have gotten calls, hey, your inspector didn't mention that there was a problem at the far left corner of the house there. And I had a guy up inside there, an electrician, he noticed it. Well, I look at the report and I say, well, the inspector only looked at it from the hatch. He didn't crawl all the way back in the attic. He wasn't able to. It wasn't safe for him to do so. So obviously that would have been something we did not see. Then the roofing section is going to be after the structure. The roof, we do look at the chimney, we look at the gutters, and we look at that roof. That's all going to be detailed there. These are common issues, and this is something that's really awesome about our reports. You do get diagrams in our reports. We have lots of diagrams kind of detailing out information for you, kind of educating you on what's being called out and why it's important. So please take a look at those. You will learn a lot by looking at these diagrams and reading all the comments. Very, very important to please read that. You will learn a lot about the house. After our roof and our structure, we have exterior. Again, this is everything I've talked about. The outside of the home, the garage, the swimming pool comments, they will be listed here. And if you notice on this page, there's a lot of red comments on this one. Those are the red comments. Again, those are the action items, the stuff that we had in that summary report, the immediate improvement recommendations. That's what's in red. After our exterior is our electrical. If you want to know the service amps to the house, this is where you're going to find it in the item description. It'll be listed here. Where is the shutoff? Where is it located? That's important. It's a good idea to know how you shut off the power to the house. So where is that? The inspector is going to state it's on the left side of the wall, is the left wall, or it's going to be at the rear of the home or at the front of the home. So he's going to put the location in the report of where the electrical panel and the shutoff is. That is something that a lot of buyers should make sure they know. When you walk through the house, show them where the electrical is. Another thing, the heating system. We will give you a description of the heating system. What type of system is it? How is it powered? Is it electrical or gas? Is there duct work? Or is it radiant heating? Is it piping? All that information will be listed about the heating system. We will test it. We will operate it. We'll turn it on and make sure it is functioning. Okay, we will use the thermostat, turn it on, make sure the burners ignite, everything, and we'll put that in the report. If it's not working, that'll be detailed in the report. If the home doesn't have a heater, that will be in the report, right? And it's not a common thing for that to happen, but it has happened. I've done inspections where there was no heater in the house. And that's a major thing. That's a big issue because we are required by law to have a source of heat in a home. So I have found that before. Then the cooling system is after that. So if there is an AC, there's a compressor outside, I will look at it. I will inspect it. I will include that in the report and I'll tell you where it is. Is it located on the roof? Is it at the back of the house? And then I'm going to test it. I'm going to measure to make sure we get an adequate temperature drop. That's important. Just because I feel some cool air doesn't mean it's actually working properly, right? You may feel a little bit of cool air, but it may not actually be cooling very much at all. So we're going to measure it. We have a tool to do that, to measure that. If I don't see at least a 16-degree temperature drop, I know something is wrong with that system. That is kind of the industry standard, 16-degree drop, right, in temperature. So maybe I got a 10-degree drop. Well, it's cooling, but not a lot. What does that mean? You probably need to have a technician come out, service the system. Maybe the refrigerant is getting low. Maybe there's a slight leak there. It's an older system. It needs cleaning. So we'll recommend you have someone come out and take a look and do a further inspection on that to figure out what's going on with the air conditioner. After that is this little section called insulation and ventilation. Often most people don't seem to really look at this section a lot, but it is important because it does goes over how much insulation is in your attic, what type of insulation is in the attic, or is there any in the crawl space? A lot of the times crawl space is not insulated, but nowadays it is something we do on all new homes. All new homes and all new remodels or additions, you have to insulate the crawl space because insulation will reduce your electrical bill, your utility bills, and it's more efficient, right? We don't have to run our AC as much if we have a well insulated home. The AC has to do less to keep the home cool. Same with vice versa in the winter. If a home is well insulated, it's going to stay warmer in the house, so your heater doesn't have to function or work as much to heat that home, because we trap in all that cold or hot air. And great thing about California is it gets cold at night in the summer, right? We open those windows and doors, get that cold air in, then close everything up. If we're well insulated, a lot of that cold air stays in the house, doesn't dissipate throughout the day. We don't have to run our AC as much. So insulation is important. Pay attention to this section, because the inspector will tell you how much insulation is in that attic. Did they see 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches of insulation? That's not very much. The standard nowadays is 10 plus inches of insulation in there. And what type of insulation? Is it fiberglass? Is it cellulose? That's important to know. There are some insurance companies now that will not insure a home if you have cellulose insulation in your attic, unless you have very specific cellulose insulation, the stuff with the fire retardant, coating on it and stuff like that. So pay attention to that, because that could affect insurance, right? Things like that. So very key. And ventilation. Is there adequate ventilation in the attic? Is there adequate ventilation in the crawl space? This is key as well, because if our crawl space isn't properly ventilated, if it gets wet underneath, which can happen during the rainy season, it will take a while to dry out, right? It won't dry out quick, which can result in fungus growing on the wood and wood damage, occurring, right? So we do get a lot of wet crawl spaces here in the Bay Area. It happens, especially in the hills, on the hillside homes. When all that rain comes, we get water in the crawl space. So we want to make sure that dries out. So ventilation is key. So I always make sure to stress to look at this section, understand the ventilation and the insulation of the home. Plumbing, everybody who pays attention to plumbing, right? This is always a concern. Is there leaks? Is the water heater properly functioning? Is the water heater strapped? This is important. Does it have a strap? It's all going to be covered here in your plumbing section. We'll tell you, what the plumbing is like, what's going on, how old is your water heater. That's key. You want to know how old that water heater is. A water heater is generally only good for about 8 years. After 8 years is when you start to encounter problems with water heaters. So if we have a 12-year-old water heater in this house that you're buying, probably a good idea to budget for a new water heater at some point, right? Budget down the road. Get ready. You may have to replace that water heater at some point. A lot of plumbing stuff. So interior of the home, lastly, you want to know where the laundry hookups are, what type of laundry hookups. It's going to be listed here. If you want to know about the smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, it's going to be listed here. If I don't say anything about smoke detectors in that item description, we know there's no smoke detectors, and there will be a comment saying there's no smoke detectors in the house, or there's no carbon monoxide detector. Maybe we have some smoke detectors, but we don't have enough. That will be listed here, because that's common. I'll find a lot of the times we'll have a smoke detector in the hallway, but nothing in the bedrooms, right? Or maybe we have 1 carbon monoxide in the house, but actually you need to have 2, because there's 2 floors. So you got to have 1 on each floor. So we'll put that information here. That's important information, because I know you have to have that before your appraisal, right? Before you get that appraiser in there. So we'll put that data here. Anything with the bathrooms, the kitchen, the appliances, what type of appliances were installed, that's going to be listed here. Is it a gas range? Is it electrical range? We'll have that information there for you. What types of windows, double pane, single pane windows, that information is there as well. That's important. Double pane windows obviously is better for efficiency. So you want to look to see, do we still have single pane windows in this house? So this is like why I really, really stress, please read that entire report. It's good information, a lot of it there. There's tons of information. Please read over everything. If you have questions about anything that you read in these reports, give us a call and talk to somebody. We'll walk you through it. We'll answer those for you. If we want to meet on site and go over things, we can do that too. Very, very important, very key. Lastly, if we did do a pool inspection, this is where you'll find that pool inspection information. It will be listed at the very end of the report. It will detail what type of pool you have, what type of pool equipment, what did we find with that pool. All that information will be there. And then all the photographs. Every picture we take, it's going to be at the back of the report. It'll be larger picture. In our summary, you have a small picture, a thumbnail there. At the back is a larger picture. It'll be in color there for you. You can take a look at that. And we always try to highlight these issues in these pictures so you can see what's going on. And then there's some maintenance advice. This is always just extra information for the buyers who's receiving it, some advice on how to maintain the home, different things they should be doing annually, every couple of years. You know, a lot of first-time buyers, so it's good information for them. Let's go ahead and highlight that for them. So quickly, let's recap and let's just go over the basis of everything here. Let's remember to help prepare your clients for the home inspection. Make sure we have access to everything. Most importantly, the crawl space, the attic, and the garage perimeter. We want to have access to everything. Remember that the home inspection is a visual examination. I don't have x-ray vision. I wish I did, and I could look in those walls, but I can't, unfortunately. Hey, if you do open the walls up and you want us to look, once you have the walls open, feel free to have us come out at that point. That's not a problem. We can do that. Home inspectors are not required to be licensed in the state of California. Remember that. There's no licensing requirements in our state. So check to make sure they're using a valid association like ASHI, like InterNACHI. You know, make sure you establish their qualifications, their credentials before you hire one. And then please read the entire report. Remember, item descriptions at the top of the report is what the inspector looked at. Immediate improvements are those items that we found that we want you to be concerned with and to be aware of. Any sort of health or safety hazards, any sort of defective equipment, any equipment that has reached their lifespan or is past their lifespan. And then the limitations, what it was we did not inspect. You know, we could not look at that deck where the homeowner asked us not to look at that deck, right? And then a home inspection always will include the structure, the roof, the exterior, electrical, heating, cooling, insulation, ventilation, interior, and plumbing. The home inspection will always include those items. And then lastly, maintenance and prevention is a key to a happy home. That is always the case. You know, the small things do matter. They can add up over time and result in bigger issues down the road. So maintain that home is always a good thing. All right. I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen. That is a lot of information condensed in a short amount of time. I could definitely go over this topic for a while. Any questions?
So is there any warranty? So like, let's just say the inspector did check something. He's supposed to have caught it, but didn't catch it.
Is there a warranty? Well, so there isn't necessarily a warranty. We wouldn't call it a warranty because that implies having been done, right? Or you're buying something. Now, what there is if it was something that was validly missed by the home inspector, we want to know. Call us up, let us know that something was missed. Now, let's say an electrical outlet did not work in the home. Oftentimes, we get a call, electrical outlet was found to not work. That wasn't on the report. Give us a call. A lot of times we're going to come out and we'll just take care of it. We're going to fix it. You know, if it's something that we validly missed, we want to be honest and we want to do good work. So we are going to do everything we can to take some responsibility and get that taken care of for you. If it is something that the home inspector did validly miss, right? That is something HomeGuard does value ourselves on, is that we do honest work, right? And we get the job done for what you pay for us. We're loyal to our customers and we're going to be loyal to you and respond with that loyalty as well. So trust is important to us. It is key in our business, right? Trust goes a long way. So you're hiring us, you trust us to do that inspection. So we want to make sure we do a good job. Mistakes happen. It happens. It's very we do thousands of inspections every year, literally tens of thousands of inspections a year. Mistakes happen. Someone's having a bad day, they miss something. So we'll take care of it. We'll try to do our best. Now, sometimes things happen. It is not the fault of the inspector, right? We'll come and we'll evaluate the situation. We'll look it over. We'll send a manager out, someone more experienced, to come out and take a look and evaluate the situation. Because there are times where something happened afterwards and it really was not the inspector's fault. He did not miss anything there. And this is why it's important to read the entire report, because sometimes people read the beginning and then they think we missed something when it was highlighted somewhere else in the report. Maybe because we didn't inspect that area, right? That's key. That's a key detail right there. Maybe I did not look in that area and that was written in those limitations. So obviously, yeah, the home inspector did not talk about it. And things can change, right? We inspect the house at that moment in time. 2 weeks later, the dishwasher's not working. It happens. It happens, especially if the house is still occupied by people living in there, right? Something could happen. And vacant homes, believe it or not, if a house sits for a long time, things can deteriorate if it's not being used, especially things like valves and switches, things that have to be turned on and off a lot. If we don't use them for a while and then someone comes along and turns it on, it could break it because it was frozen. It was an older valve and it just started to calcify and sit there. So sometimes a house being vacant for a long time can create problems with plumbing and electrical and stuff. So that is common as well. So any other questions?
There's a question online. Is it common issue? What are common issues for new construction homes? And are there specific aspects that we should focus on during inspections?
That's a really good question. And I recommend getting an inspection on a new home. I really do. Brand new home, have it inspected. You know why? These guys, they come and they slap these homes together so fast. They do. They bring in crews and they're building, 50 homes all at once in these developments. The HVAC guy comes in and he installs the heater in, 5, 6 different houses in one day. They just come in and and they're using all kinds of different contractors for these homes. There is the general company, but they hire the electrical guy and they're using all these different people to come in. A lot of different people. People make mistakes. It's normal. Humans make mistakes, right? Things occur. And I have done inspections on brand new homes and found some glaring issues, like big issues. And it's usually improper workmanship, right? It's something was not done correctly or forgotten and overlooked. That's common. I had a person not long ago hire us to inspect a new house. I go to turn on the furnace. Nothing's happening. I'm like, what's going on? I go look in the attic. The gas line was never hooked up. Furnace is not going to work if there's no gas line hooked up, right? I mean, well, that's a problem. So things like that happen. I've seen improper breakers installed. They use too small of a breaker, too big of a breaker. I mean, just stuff happens. So I always recommend to get an inspection done on a new house. Chances are we're not going to find a lot. That's usually the case. But there is times where we do find stuff. I have found broken trusses up in the attic. Yeah, broken trusses.
On a new house?
On a house, brand new. They threw in the truss, the guy broke it, and he didn't say anything, and he hit it and just left it, right? And the building inspectors from the city do not inspect everything. I'm telling you that right now. They're there for like 30 minutes. Do you think they're going to look at absolutely everything in 30 minutes? They're not. They look at a number of different things. They do. They'll spot check. They'll check this. They'll check that. If the guy's coming in and check the electrical to sign off on that electrical permit, he will look at a few items on it and check the most important things and then sign off on it. They don't check necessarily everything on the permit. So building inspectors from the city miss stuff all the time. They do. Okay. So, that second line of defense is using that home inspector to come in afterwards.
There's a guy on social media. He's very popular inspector, and he inspects new homes all the time, and he catches things all the time. So you want to look him up on YouTube. It's Gold Star Inspection. He's pretty funny because he uses a thermal gun. Like he always checks for moisture. That's really cool. I'm not sure if HomeGuard actually ever does that, but I wanted to get one of those guns for like when I go inspect properties to invest.
Yeah, there is a moisture meter. It is a great tool. We don't use it on our inspections because, it takes time to do a lot of that. And it's, we don't want to spend 3-4 hours on a single home, right? It's not necessary. If you do want a detailed inspection like that, there are companies out there that do that, right? So you can hire that. But for a normal real estate transaction and for disclosure items, that wouldn't be your typical inspection. That would be done for real estate.
Yeah, I looked into those guns. It's like $200-300. You can get on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I learned something new, so definitely I'm gonna take advantage of the buyer consultation. So a lot of times, especially if, for your clients, hey, if you don't really know how to go over the inspections, you don't know what to say, to go, hey, you know what? I'll do it better yet. I'm gonna have the home inspector go over everything with you for the buyers. That's something that's going to be very valuable for you guys to use because it makes you look good that you're doing something special. Because I bet you a lot of agents don't know that. I didn't know that. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Great. I'm glad you learned something new.
I'm glad you guys learned something, and I'm glad I brought a little knowledge to Vince. Even he knows so much already, and I'm gonna put a gold stamp on my calendar today. I taught
like
Vince something.
Third time I've seen this inspection training, but yeah, I missed it.
Yeah, right. You always pick up a new nugget here and there.
Okay.
Well, that wraps it up for us today, guys. I want to send a special thank you to Vince and Travis. Travis for coming to do this special home inspection training with us, and Vince for hosting. If you do have any questions, definitely let me know. I put my information in the chat. Just remember with HomeGuard, the more you bundle, the more you save. So bundle with us, and you got all your inspections, all your natural hazard disclosures, and your home warranty. We will be taking a couple weeks off here. I'm sorry, I have a vacation coming up. But when we come back, I believe the next one is going to be a termite inspection. So I'll look forward to seeing you all there. Right. And thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you, Travis, again. Oh, quick. I remember one thing for inspectors. Allow them to the good ones, because HomeGuard has a lot of inspectors. Just FYI, I've had good ones and have not so good ones. I have great ones too. The great ones keep their card because you can always request for that good inspector. So that's another tip for you guys.
On that too, if you have an inspector that you particularly like, just email me and I'll have them as your preferred inspector.
Oh, even better. Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick for Travis next time.
All right. Thank you. All right. Bye.